I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. Okay, gang, if you are a busy professional that just happens to have ADHD, you're a so-called high achiever, an entrepreneur, and things are getting a little challenging, you are in the right place. Thank you once again. If you are a regular listener of Overcoming Distractions, thank you once again for coming back. And if you are new, welcome. This is the place for you. So, burnout. Boy, I am meeting with more and more people that are burned out for various reasons. Or we start to dig in and then we realize that they may be headed towards burnout or already there. And there are so many reasons for this. Burnout is very complex. Don't let people tell you it's a simple thing. But, some of the things that contribute to feeling burned out are our own work habits or our workload, not setting boundaries to actually get your work done, people pleasing. A lot of us have done that. Maybe it's our inability to say no or saying we'll do everything. And one that is becoming crystal clear to me is a misalignment of values, meaning you may just be in the wrong workplace, the wrong type of work, the wrong business. Many of you are working for organizations that are chaotic, toxic, and you have figured out that this environment does not work for you. You've tried to make it work, and not being that impulsive ADHD and quitting, and there were just elements that just don't align with your values. And that is one thing we did talk about a lot in my book, Overcoming Burnout, is a misalignment of values. Again, we see on social media this simplistic view of burnout, but it actually can be complex. And when your values are not being met in your work or your career, then that is a challenge. So now, burnout can develop gradually, often starting with subtle signs that might be easy to overlook. And recognizing these early signs, I believe, can help you take action before the situation worsens. I've seen a lot online about burnout hitting people unexpectedly, but if you know the signs early on, it won't be this sudden, surprising thing that you're burned out. The problem is that you may have been burned out for a while, but you're just realizing it, okay? And I think there's a difference. And I know because I did the same thing. I was casually saying to myself for a long time, man, I'm burned out. Man, I'm burned out. But I was burned out. Maybe you thought it was stress, but when it enters another phase chronically, this is most likely burnout. However, a few things I'm about to discuss can just be some of the norm for those of us with ADHD. So we have to determine whether certain negative aspects in our lives at the moment are just ADHD or it's something such as burnout that needs to be addressed. I mean, we can have a heavy workload, but our ADHD just doesn't, we haven't figured out how to like maybe structure our week, so to speak, or build some routines. And when we do that, we actually thrive. But when we're burned out, that is not easily fixable by, just deciding to block out a couple hours to do work. So it can help. Burnout can take people out. And I've worked with many people who have taken leave of absences because the work, it just got so bad, and the working environment just got so bad. And I say that because I want you to take this seriously. And that's why we need to continue to discuss this. So I want to take the opportunity today to go over some of those early warning signs of burnout that I do not want you to ignore. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to create some false whatever freak out. But you do need to understand that when you start to kind of feel this way, you should take notice and take some action. So, all right, so let's go through these, folks. Number one is that chronic fatigue. It's feeling physically and emotionally exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. And the fatigue becomes more persistent, and it becomes harder to shake off. And I want to emphasize the word chronic, because if you feel like this periodically, it could be stress. But if you cannot shake this feeling of this chronic fatigue, it is most likely burnout. Next, are disturbances in sleep, difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up feeling, again, completely unrefreshed. Insomnia, other sleep problems, they can become more frequent when we're burned out. Now, I know this is difficult to distinguish because so many people with ADHD have challenges with sleep. However, this is another hallmark of burnout, when sleep just sucks and it does nothing for you. So, and again, collectively, all these things, if you just have problems with sleep, and you don't maybe experience some of these other things, it may not be burnout. You may just have that classic challenge of us ADHDers with trying to get a good night's sleep. So we've done sleep episodes. Go back and listen to those. Part of it is sleep hygiene. Part of it is not going to bed at 2 a.m. and trying to get up at 6 because you watch Netflix all night. But that's my little rant on sleep there. So next, decreased motivation. We have a hard time getting motivated, those of us with ADHD. But losing our interest in our work or other activities that maybe once you found fulfilling, tasks and projects that, again, might have been exciting at one time and now they just feel like a chore and you have real difficulty getting started on them. And again, distinguishing between our own ADHD tendencies and telling ourselves, I just can't do this anymore, again, is something that you need to analyze. And maybe it's analyzing it with, some type of professional or somebody does understand burnout. So, okay. Increased irritability, right? Again, a lot of these things just like they sound like ADHD, but becoming more easily frustrated, impatient, angry, sometimes over like small little things, right? Your tolerance for stress may decrease because it's chronic stress and you're getting sick of it. And again, this taps into our challenges with that emotional regulation piece that we've talked about and we'll continue to talk about. We may find ourselves screaming into a pillow or going into the restroom at the office and like screaming quietly or grunting or, right? Just increased irritability. You're irritable when you get up. You're irritable when you're driving to work or going to your home office or what have you. So, concentration problems, struggling to focus, completing tasks, making decisions. You might feel like mentally fogged out or experience those frequent distractions. And I believe those of us with ADHD, when in the right environment, we can focus. So as long as we put the right systems in place, we can focus. But we're talking about just a whole nother level here. And of course, we have challenges, but when we can't concentrate and compounding that with the elements we're speaking about here, it's just another indication of burnout. We can, like I said, I want to distinguish this because I think we can focus and we can get our jobs done and actually thrive in a career. It's when we just completely fog out and lose train of thought and have almost an inability to do our jobs successfully anymore, or other things, even in your personal life. So, the physical symptoms: chronic headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, grinding your teeth, other physical symptoms without like a clear cause, right? I keep throwing out my neck. Why? I keep throwing out my back. I didn't do anything. Now, either you're old, like me, or you're burned out, okay? But these can be the signs of stress manifesting in the body. And the body keeps the score. It's a book about how stress manifests into physical symptoms. And this is 1,000% true. If we're talking about anxiety and stress and burnout, there is not a more apt title to a book than The Body Keeps the Score. If you want to grab it, great. It's a heavy read. I will just caution you on that. You might have to pick it up and put it down, but it does make a lot of sense. So emotional detachment, we feel disconnected, from our work, our colleagues, even our loved ones. You might start to feel indifferent or even numb to some of these situations that, might normally, involve a response. And this is where I feel we start to separate ADHD from burnout. We just start to check out. You might have said this to yourself: my boss is an asshole, he's an idiot, the chaos will never fix itself here, and I am checking out, right? So, increased cynicism, speaking of checking out, but this is like in the burnout like scale that people have developed over the years, some people smarter than me, right? But cynicism, developing like that more negative or critical attitude towards your work or other people. You may be more pessimistic. You may be resentful. And we need to correct this because many of you actually love your work but hate where you're working. And cynicism unaddressed, I think, can affect your ability to continue liking your work. And I think that's a problem. Resentment, we just mentioned that, but when we start to resent the people around us, that can be a dangerous place. Many people who are burned out resent their boss, their clients. And when caregivers are burned out, they can feel resentment towards the family members that they're taking care of because they feel like they're missing out on things. And I think I'm going to dig into this more in another podcast because it's something that is very toxic within ourselves. So, decreased productivity. I'm talking a decline in productivity way beyond us ADHD people are used to, right? And when we get to the point where we just can't get anything done, no matter how hard we try, I think you're closing in on burnout. So if you just have problems with productivity and challenges with productivity, again, if you're not feeling these other things, you need to tweak your systems to actually get stuff done. That's super different than when you're just so foggy you can't get anything done anymore. So, the last thing I think is social withdrawal, pulling away from those social interactions. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's in your personal life. You may feel too drained to engage with other people. Maybe you're not hanging out with people at work anymore, or maybe going out for that beer at night, or going to lunch with people. Maybe you're having lunch in your car by yourself, or what have you, if you actually do go in the office now. But we pull away from being social. And I remember interviewing a CEO who was burned out for my book, Overcoming Burnout. And I asked him what the first sign of burnout was. And he said it was when you stop doing the things you loved. So if you pulled away from family and friends and maybe even coworkers you like to hang out with because of the way you feel, I believe that is a strong indicator of burnout. So if you are feeling any of these and need some guidance on navigating your next steps or how to thrive in your current environment, please go over to my website, overcomingdistractions.com, book a 15-minute chat, and let's see if we're a good fit. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I make that perfectly clear. But I can help you work through the mechanics of burnout and navigating where you are, how you survive in your current environment, and maybe talk about next steps for making your next move if you need to get out. I will say this is time well spent, because if you are contributing to your burnout, and I think a lot of us are, we talked about in Overcoming Burnout, we're co-founders of our burnout. But if you bring the same habits into a new company, a new organization, a new job, guess what's going to happen? You may feel burned out again. So this is an opportunity to maybe fix the things on your end that are contributing to feeling burned out as a busy adult with ADHD. If you want to read, you can find the book Overcoming Burnout. That has real life stories that you can relate to. They are people just like you that have gone through burnout, and I talk about with them their street smart strategies to begin your recovery and what they did to actually recover from burnout. So that's also on the website. All right, gang, hit me up if you need to, and I'll catch you next time.